Okay. So there's a lot of different terms and words in which we need to sift through in order to be able to understand. I want to make sure that it's as easy to understand as possible, simply because I believe it's better suited for all of us if not only myself but you, the audience, the one that's viewing this, understand it, and you understand it very clearly. That's the same approach that I've taken towards wanting to share the information about water. I have also done the same thing, and I'm going to be doing the same thing when it comes to radio frequency exposure. So RF exposure, i.e., electromagnetic frequency exposure. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want us to understand. Because it's like what I'm doing right now is entirely contingent upon you understanding it just as much as I am understanding it. I don't want to confuse you into buying something, because obviously, again, as it's been prefaced at the beginning of the video, I am sharing this information with you for the intents and purposes of providing you a solution, which is going to be a product, which again is going to cost money. And so my entire approach to this is entirely contingent upon you understanding and recognizing the value of what it is I'm going to be sharing with you. So that's the reason why I'm going to be approaching it and talking about it in as long form of manner as I am doing so, because again, I'm treating this as though I would be sharing this to myself. Like, how would I want someone to be sharing news about a product that can offer a solution towards me, and how I would want them to be sharing that information? I don't want them to be blasé. I want them to be very thorough, and I want them to be very to the point, and I want them to be extremely transparent. And I actually also want them to provide me some valuable insight into something that I can potentially then go back and take into consideration, if not take into consideration whilst I'm being exposed to it. Um, that is taken into consideration to be able to make a decision moving forward, whether it is to actually take it on board and acquire what it is they're talking about, or for in this instance yourself towards what I'm talking about and the solutions I'm going to be providing, offering the EMF protection harmonizing device. And so that's why I want to explain it. And the reason why I've been going about things and the way I've been doing them is because I want to ensure that if anything that's online, it's like you want to ensure that you can trust whatever it is you're listening to. And so that's why I've been going through this kind of long form approach to ensure that you can actually see and engage with me. I mean, if you're watching through long form content, you're engaging with somebody, right? So yeah, with that out of the way, we're going to go into talk about radio frequency exposure and electromagnetic frequencies. The reason why we need to understand these things, because we're going to actually bring up the spectrum, is because there's actually quite a bit to understand here. And one of the main essential things we need to understand is that in a similar fashion, so if you've listened to and gone through any of the information regarding the water, and you understand the benefit as to one of the central and core reasons why it's beneficial, you then understand that there is things that are causing oxidation, and the water and the specific characteristic that the Kangen water has is the selective antioxidant, which is hydrogen, the gaseous hydrogen, which is supersaturated in the Kangen water. And so you have all of this supersaturation of all these hydrogen molecules that are providing you an abundance of antioxidation. So you're stopping this degradation, this aging process, this loss of electrons that oxidation causes, and you are reversing and mitigating that with water. And in a similar fashion, with with EMF protection and EMF harmonizing devices, the one we're talking about, which is MGuard, is the EMF harmonizing device. What it does is, well, it harmonizes your environment. It stops these harmful electromagnetic non-native frequencies, radio frequencies, within the 8 meter radius in which it encompasses and harmonizes. And basically it stops what it stops the response or reaction that these harmful radio frequencies would otherwise be eliciting from your cells to do, which is your cells are basically releasing free radicals, and what free radicals do is they cause oxidative damage. You lose electrons. And basically it's just stealing electrons and knocking out electrons from the cells and such within its proximity. I'm being very blasé here. I'm being very, how do you say? I'm not being very specific, but the gist is that you are causing oxidative damage due to the fact that these EMF frequencies disrupt your cells, and your cells interpret them as a signal that they are under attack, or that there is something that needs to be eradicated. And so they release these free radicals, and these free radicals, what their job is to eradicate things. And so you're causing oxidative damage to yourself as a result of these frequencies, which elicit this response in your body. And so and then you start causing damage to these free radicals start causing damage to you, again causing oxidative stress, loss of electrons. I just want to momentarily create this quick interruption, just to actually notify you that there's actually a difference between. I think this is significant, because if you've listened to any content or watched anything regarding Kangen water, then you would see something. You would see the equation OH minus, and it's significant to note that there's a difference between, a hydroxyl ion and a hydroxyl radical. So as you can see, it talks about, with the text on the screen, it indicates that a hydroxyl radical is the free radical, which is causing the disruption of the oxidative stress in the body, as a result of having the cell having received stimulus from the EMF, and then thus creating the hydroxyl radical. But it's notable to understand that there's a difference between a hydroxyl radical and a hydroxyl ion, because hydroxyl ions can actually be found in Kangen water, for instance, but instead of them functioning as a radical, they function as a reductive agent, or reducing agent, or an antioxidant agent. And I think that's significant to note, because it's helping to actually mitigate oxidative stress. That is Kangen water, and if you've been watching this channel, then you already know that. But I just wanted to make sure that this is apparent, and that you are aware that there is a difference between a hydroxyl radical and a hydroxyl ion. So that's that. And one more thing before we continue this video about EMFs is, I just want to clarify this. There's terms ionized water and ionizing radiation. They refer to two very different concepts. So when you talk about ionized water, basically all the when the term ionized is being utilized when we're talking about water, and specifically describing and having that term attributed to Kangen water, is actually the ionized word and term is being used to refer to the hydroxyl ions which are being created and which are being saturated into the Kangen water. Because just as we've talked about in other videos where I talked about how deuterium is depleted from electrolysis, and also how hydrogen is supersaturated into the water, what else is also being saturated into the water is hydroxyl ions. And so that's why they get the term ionized water, and that's what's actually giving the alkaline reading when the water is being tested for alkalinity. It's the hydroxyl ions, so they can function as a reductive agent. As it relates to ionizing radiation, basically what that is referred to is that ionizing radiation is basically something it's radiation that is actually moving electrons from atoms and molecules. So it's like I guess you could say in some way, shape, or form, it's like it's like oxidation, the removal and loss of electrons, but on steroids. But I just wanted to clarify that because, and we are talking about EMFs and such here, and that's the main point of the video. But there's a lot of things that kind of come into play when we're talking about all these different terms. So, ionized as it relates to water, because if you're on this channel and you're watching this video, then you'll probably go through more of the content, or already have been. And you probably heard that term ionized. So ionized, what it's been referred to is the hydroxyl ions, which which is another characteristic of Kangen water, is that it's rich in hydrogen ions, and so that's why that gets the term ionized water. And that's that. So we're going to continue. There's more to it. There's more to this equation of radio frequency and electromagnetic frequencies, and what they're doing to your body. There's a lot more that's actually going on. I'm very much sure of that, and that's why we're going through everything here, and they're going to be going through the material to really uncover what's going on. But just with that brief kind of breakdown, that very simplified breakdown which we've just gone through, and talking about oxidative stress and oxidative damage, we can already see then, just by that explanation alone, why EMF harmonization, why this M-guard, if it's going to be harmonizing the EMF frequencies within this 8 meter radius in which it protects you within, if you're standing within that and working within this radius of the device, this EMF harmonization device, then evidently you're not going to be being exposed to those harmful EMF frequencies that would then elicit this cellular response that's going to cause oxidative damage. So that's quite obvious, and again, that's a very simple explanation. And again, as I was saying, I want to be able to go in a bit more deeper so that we're able to understand what it is that that's actually going on, and we're also going to uncover a bit more information as to the reason why this stuff is causing damage, and why it's significant again to have something like the M-guard to harmonize the EMF frequencies within the radius in which such a device would protect you from in your life, why it's important to have something like that. So we're going to move on to that now. We're actually going to go through some more material.